Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next episode review of Undead Girl Murder Farce, episode 4. And I would say this is the best one I've seen so far. I mean, just more good explanation, of especially of Aya, of explaining of the whodunit of solving this murder mystery, and just other than the Japanese voice actor who voiced Anya, I thought I did a good job just explaining it as such a calm demeanor. I mean, just explaining how, especially on the murder weapon, I thought that was a very creative idea, which, okay, that was a very clever, creative way. Like, with since the Lord Goddard's wife murdered, right, they assume it was the silver stake, right, that was in the storage room, right? But it turns out that the murderer used holy water and froze it in a shape to make it look like a steak, right? Because since a steak is silver, if they touch it, they burns them, right? So, by making a frozen steak out of holy water, because if you try to stab it with a regular steak, right? Even if you like tapping it into it, right, it'll make noise and other people will hear, right? So, since the vampires have good hearing, especially the butler and the maid will hear it too. So by making a frozen holy water steak, it'll make less noise. And essentially it'll evaporate and melt due to the body temperature once you stick it in, right? For a vampire. So, and that way it'll dissipate and they'll just leave the empty bottle of holy water to make it at the crime scene, make it seem like it was that, right? But I thought it was a very genius, creative, clever way. Which, okay, I've never seen that done before to a vampire, right? Making a steak out of frozen holy water. I thought that was very clever. And then then with the alibis with everybody, and which Sullivan who really done it, which it turns out spoiler. It was the younger son, Raul, which I think his behavior, I think, kind of gave it away, though. I think, when we first saw his a little reaction, I think, okay, he did it right. So yeah, I think his little behavior, his reaction, I think they just gave it away, which, okay. I mean, it was gonna be revealed one way or another, though. But regardless, though, I think that when it came to the action, I thought was when it came to the action part, I think it was really well done, because he goes and starts attacking Cigarro's name, and just like how he keeps on how comedically, just casually being funny while Raul was trying to punch or kick or whatever, he's just casually dodging and casually just kicking, punching him, he goes and punches him right through a bunch of freaking brick walls and stuff. So, and he's just casually yeah, because he could take him, and eventually he had to kill him. So sadly, and so all this time because Lord Goddard, he lost 3 members, expand of how many centuries he lived through. And he's only lost 3 people in that long period of time. Seems like a small number, though. But then now he lost his wife and his son at the same time now. Can't feel but sorry for the guy. And at the same time, Aya, she's asking any information about this mysterious guy who took her body. And they say that she gives the description of the person, and they said, the guy came by a couple of days ago, and so then we get as they're leaving, we see a glimpse of the guy in a carriage, and we see a guy, this big monster is sitting riding on the back of the carriage, and I just assume that's Frankenstein. I'd assume. And even they mention that there's this woman and guy inside the carriage with the guy, the mysterious man. Reading a newspaper, they're mentioned about the Phantom of the Opera. Sorry, I had to sneeze again. Sorry, but yeah, if you get the mystery man is reading in the newspaper saying they mentioned about the Phantom of the Opera. I'm like, Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera. They mentioned Count Dracula. I'm like, and they mentioned Sherlock Holmes. I mentioned, they mentioned all these classic monsters, right? And I just maybe assume the M, the old guy, the mystery man, everyone his cane, they mentioned on his cane has an M on the cane. I'm like, is this Professor Moriarty? Because they said they called him the Professor, right? They called him the Professor. I'm like, Professor M on the cane, is this Professor Moriarty? Or is that's like a very big thing just to throw us off, right? I mean, they can't be that. I mean, the Professor, M on the cane, mysterious man, acting mysterious. It has to be Professor Moriarty. Because remember, they mentioned Sherlock Holmes. He's in this. Well, I'm like, they're building all these Universal characters. Because, back then, time of the Universal class of monsters, because when I watched Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, they were part of Universal as well. So I'm like, they're bringing all these Universal characters together. I'm like, you know what? You know how sad it is that this show already, 4 episodes in, mentioning all these characters. I'm like, they built all this in this one universe of all these characters far much better already than what we saw in the failed dark universe of the Universal monsters, starting with The Mummy with Tom Cruise. I mean, they tried to make a Universal monster called the Dark Universe, and with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and how much of a big fail that was, and they canceled that whole universe because of that. I'm like, they mentioned all these characters in this, and they've already making a universe with these, and it's already done much better with, sadly, with the Dark Universe, sad to say. I mean, we see possibly Professor Moriarty, we get Sherlock Holmes, they mention the Phantom of the Opera, we see, like, Frankenstein, they used to mention Count Dracula, because when Cigar was fighting Raoul, he's like, well, Count Dracula was much better than you, fighting me than you, right? I mean, this universe is already has been built far much better, sad to say, than the Dark Universe, the failed Dark Universe they failed to make, I mean, The Mummy sucked, from 2017 with Tom Cruise. That sucked big time. And they tried to make a cinematic universe with that, and it failed. Flat on its face. Sad, how pathetic and sad is that? This was much better of a universe than that did. But yeah. But episode 4, like I said, just like once again, how she explains, all the problems and this unraveling this murder mystery. I'm like, she explained this so casually and calmly, of solving this mystery as perfectly as anyone could, just like how she's like Sherlock Holmes, explaining everything, just in a calm demeanor, right? And then, like with the murder weapon, I thought that was very it was so very clever how they used it, just using because not only on top of that, because with Raoul. Because since he touched the silver stake and he got his hands burned, right? So what does he do to get rid of the evidence? Since he can regenerate, he cuts off his own fingers to get rid of the evidence of the burn marks on his hand. Because since everyone else in the room has no burn marks, right, including Raoul, he cut his fingers or his whole hand off to hide the evidence that he has a burnt hand. I mean, that's another very clever way, too, as well, especially when you deal in vampires, I thought it was another very clever way, too. So, yeah, this episode I thought has been the best one so far, right? And I can't wait to see more because, especially with the ending, with Professor Moriarty, Frankenstein, and so much more to go, I'm like, hopefully Sherlock Holmes will come into the picture pretty soon, so... But I'm really enjoying this series. If this is like the only murder mystery we'll get to, I mean, it was good. It was really good. I mean, I know, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to see more. Possibly team up with Sherlock Holmes to solve another mystery. Possibly Professor Moriarty. Who knows, though? So, I'm really excited to see more of this series. So, yeah. So that's episode 4. Really thumbs up for this one. Really great. I mean, clever usage with the murder weapon. It just I explains how the mystery is unfolded. Very clever and just it is very I would say kind of refreshing in a way, But yeah, mystery solved. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode review, and we'll see you next time. Later.